I'm going to create a mini series of videos that cover basic blacksmithing techniques. Today's video is going to be making square tapers. I'm going to cover some theory and I'm going to show you practically how to do them and any challenges you might find when you're making tapers. If there's anything you struggle with when making tapers, please drop them in the comments below and I'll try and answer. Let's get started. Before I get too in-depth into the world of tapers, I want to talk about this document. This is a forging exercise book. It's for blacksmith and apprentice farriers. It's got a range of projects from hooks, shackles, tapers, and tong making. I'll put a link to this in the description below, and I highly recommend you printing it off and having you go through some of these projects. They're really useful, and if you're ever stuck for something to make or try or develop your skills, this is really good. Let's go on to the tapers. If you are stuck, this is why I say use this document, because you've got a lot of information in here to refer back to on how to make tapers. Okay, and it gives you dimensions and some things to work off. So material I'm going to be using today is 16mm square. I recommend using square bar because you've got flat planes to work off. So when you are forging your taper and drawing it down, you can keep everything nice and square and true, and it will help prevent it from twisting. Just gives you that visual aid just to make everything a little bit easier for you. But use whatever material you've got around. Round bar works perfectly fine. When forging tapers, you've got your 16mm square, and there's a transition point. That goes from the 16mm, and that's where it transitions down to a point. That is the bit that you measure, because today I want to try and work to a measurement and show you guys how you can forge to a measurement. I'm going to focus on the end and I'm going to start drawing back. And you'd physically measure that by putting your rule next to it, measuring from that transition point to the point. The key thing with making tapers, you want to bring your material close to the edge of the anvil. You don't want it too far over because you don't want to start setting it down over the anvil. And your angle is important. Too high of an angle, you end up hitting the heel of the hammer into your material, you end up bending it. And it's also important not to bring your material too far back, mainly so the hammer doesn't keep hitting on the anvil, which damages your hammer and damages your anvil. That's why it's always handy to bring it close to the edge when you're forging your taper, so then there's somewhere for your hammer to fall over, and then you can help get that nice sharp point. Like here in this image, see how the hammer's hanging over the edge of the anvil, where the taper is? That means you can get that nice crisp point. Your hammer angle is important as well. Too far back, you can start marking your material with the heel of the hammer, okay? And helping adjust your angle as you go, though, does help form that taper. You don't have to be rigid and try and keep the same angle as you go. Whenever I forge tapers, I'm constantly adjusting the material. When you're forging tapers, the only bit that is touching the anvil is the taper itself, just this part here. That stays on the anvil, and that's the only bit you're working. You don't need to have the rest of the bar on, because then you could end up keep constantly fighting your taper as you. All of this I'll go over more practically when I do it on the forge. Some of the problems you can have is as you forge, you might forge an area too much, and you can end up with a bit of a belly inside of it. What you might have to do is upset that back in and try and forge that in, and then just try and draw the taper back in. Or if you're still in with the measurement that you're going to work to, you could actually just try and forge it back a little bit more and just try and blend it. The aim is to get a nice smooth transition from your taper. You can use your rule or a flat piece of metal if you don't have one, and just put it along the edge of your taper like so. This is where you can check your flats to make sure there's no dips or belly in, or if there's anything which is too sticking out, you can actually try and work it and dress it and just make sure everything keeps nice and straight. So if you have any questions, please drop them in the comments below. I hope that all makes sense. I'm going to get the forge lit and I'll practically show you what I mean. So let's go. Start by marking out 80mm on the anvil. And I'm going to demonstrate how you sort of set up your angles that you need. Watching the hammer doesn't keep hitting the anvil, or you forging over the edge of the anvil. This is about the angle that I need. You can adjust your hammer as you go and watch the heel. You don't want that digging in, otherwise you'll end up bending. If you want to make a short stubby taper, you can have a high angle, but you just got to be careful you don't keep hitting the hammer into your bar, bending it. During forging, I'll do 2 hits and I'll rotate the bar 90 degrees, and another 2 hits, and repeat this to get a nice even forging. I'm just focusing my hammer blows right on the end of that bar, trying to forge that down to a nice point. Constantly keep turning the bar, just helps keep everything nice and even. When checking measurements on the anvil, use the transition point along the edge of the anvil and then use your rule if needed. Roughly about 30mm here, so I've got a bit of a way to go until I get to my 80. I'm going to focus my hammer blows just on that transition point now, and I'm going to start working my way backwards, trying to keep everything nice and blended as I go. Use your rule to accurately check your measurements. It also doubles up as a straight edge, so you can see if your taper is nice and straight or if there's any dips or bellies in it, and you can correct them as you go. Once you finish forging your taper, like any job, make sure you give it a good wire brush. Wire brushing is important because it finishes the job off. It makes it pleasing to the eye, gives it a good finish, and that is important to me. Whenever I wire brush, I work down from a nice bright orange all the way down to black. And if you quench the job or your brush in between, it helps shock more of that scale off and helps with a nice shiny finish. Thank you for watching this quick video on forging tapers. Just a quick recap. Focus on the ends of the material, start working your hammer blows back. Always checking your measurements as you go with your rule, and also checking your flatness as you go. Remember, you're only measuring from the point to the transition point where it goes from your 16mm square of your material size down to the point. If you do have any questions, please drop them in the comments below. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers, bye.